thing down. It's my birth. Oh, well, you were gonna leak the news.
Yeah, it's Ryan's birthday, everybody. I'm gonna mention it throughout, so just in case, because we probably have like 5 people that just realize it's
Anybody wants to send me cake? I like a cake. So I got plans for my birthday, man. So we gotta do it early at 2, man. I don't know. Sorry. That's how it goes sometimes.
I think they're understandable.
All right. Well, like what we do here is we're gonna start by just giving some stuff away while we get everybody in. You can't see how many people are in now on this new screen here. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess there's like at least 2.
We trust.
We trust
that there's people there.
111. All right.
Hey, let me do the first one so you can figure this one out.
All right. Here we go. So just giving away orders. For those who don't know, you bought something in the last 30 days. We may give it away every Monday. And if you didn't buy anything, put it in your cart. Give that stuff away too. So you got to be a preferred reefer. Click the link in the bottom.
Yes.
And preferred reefer, add some stuff to your cart. Buy it. We'll give it away.
Cool.
All right.
Hey, so today let's get started with Melissa. Melissa in Cary, North Carolina. Last order was on the 5th of January, and you ordered 1,000 mils of Acro Power from Two Little Fishies. That means you paid $37.03, but you really didn't pay $37.03 because I'm giving it back to your rewards points after this.
All right. Well, hey, it's been a couple of weeks since we got a cart one, so this is good news. This is a cart, right?
It is a cart.
All right.
So the name is up here on top.
The name is up here. Where?
Oh, Eduardo.
Oh, there we go. Eduardo Cacho. And is there an address here?
There is.
Oh, it's Oceanside, California.
Right.
Holy cow, man. You got a lot of stuff in your cart.
All Vortec and Ecotech gear, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Ecotech, man. Should be happy. There's a G4 XR15 in the cart, 2 of them. 2 XR15 mounts. The Reef Link wireless controller, the diffuser upgrade, and 2 MP40s, man. Ecotech all the way, man. So
we're going to credit some back.
Yeah, that's a total of $1,871. We're not going to give away that whole thing, but we are going to give you $500, man, in reward points towards your account, right? So your bill just went from $1,871 down to $1,371, or you don't have to buy the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's awesome,
nice.
man. All right, Dave, how many we got now?
Oh, we got quite a few.
Can you see?
I see comments rolling in.
All right, well. 170. All right, good enough, man. We're going to roll. All right, so today, what are we talking about?
Hey, we kind of got this question. I've heard your story a lot of times. We get this question a lot on social media and whatnot on how Ryan got started into all this reefing business and reefing gear and hobby. And
well, I think not just started, but like where did my sources of information come?
Yeah.
How did I learn how to reef, I guess?
Yeah.
Not just like the business is a total aside, different conversation. Today, man, really, like, how did I learn how to reef? How did you learn to reef? And, I guess I don't know your full story.
We're about to find out.
I am going to find out, like, right along with you guys. So, thank you for the happy birthday wishes. For those of you who don't know, I'm 42, man. I'm getting pretty old. Like, I'm going to get free coffee at Perkins soon. At least discounted, man. Maybe I can ride the bus for free, too. All right, man. So I think I'm just going to let you guys start. If you guys got questions about where we learn stuff, man, where
resources that you might have used to get in the hobby, like, do you want to share?
Anything, man, about reefing. I guess about bulk reef supply too, if you want. Hey, whatever. But ask questions. We'll look for them. Dave's gonna pull out the good ones and we'll answer them. But let the reefers know where'd you learn all your reefing knowledge from?
Reefing. I got into first. It starts way before reefing because I always grew up in a household with fish tanks, freshwater fish tanks. There was probably like 3 or 4 in my house at any given time, just because we like beta fish, little bowls on the table, or goldfish bowl in the room, or a big 55-gallon aquarium out front with some frogs and the bubblers and the whole 9. And of course, you got to get the little scuba man diver guy in there too, blowing bubbles. And then I got to Kansas because I was in the military for a while and was stationed in Kansas, and I went to the Petco. And I was like, I want to get some more fish. So let me go see what's at Petco. And it just so happened that this place had a really nice saltwater offering.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sometimes the Petco's, man, the one in Minnetonka here is awesome.
Yeah, they do.
It's like, it's for a lot of you that have been shopping at Petco for saltwater fish, you might not think so, but some of them are really nice.
I was surprised. There's a full-fledged frag tank, saltwater fish offering. So there's corals, there's fish, there's all of everything you need. But there was a guy that was working there who I believe is managing the place now. His name is Ty, a good buddy of mine.
Hey, Ty.
Ty got me looking at saltwater stuff. He asked me if I was ever into it, and I said no, but I was interested. And then he started getting into how sciencey and nerdy it can be, which is right up my alley anyway. So I just started soaking it all in, and I ended up buying a 40 gallon breeder from there because it was the sale, that they used to do.
Do they not do the dollar sale anymore?
I don't think they do $1 per gallon very much anymore. I don't think it's discounted, but I don't think it's like $1 per gallon, which is a heck of a deal.
That was a great deal.
It was the best time to get a breeder. So then I started putting all my stuff together, and then convinced my significant other at the time that, hey, we need more water volume to make it easier to take care of. And then before I deployed somewhere, I had a 125 gallon tank with a camera on it, and then I started watching Ryan while I was deployed.
Okay, so pre Ryan, man, like, how did you get the knowledge, man, to be able to set it up and keep it alive? I mean, like, because this is a big jump, man. For me, it was really, really hard, man, to get from ground zero to like knowing what to do. I mean, once I knew what to do, man, I was successful, and I started it from the beginning, man, but the research phase was actually harder than you would think.
Yeah, I jumped into it with 2 feet. Plus I had an awesome resource with this friend at the Petco place who's now a good friend of mine, but I mean, his garage was, the typical reefer's garage with 500, 600 gallons of various tanks in there. So I'd be at his house picking his brain on how to mix salt water or what I need to do for lights and heaters and equipment. And then I took off to the forums. The forums were probably the biggest asset to me because I'm one of those learners who can you read a technical manual and then I can implement it, so I don't necessarily have to visualize how it works or watch somebody do it for me. I mean, it helps, but mainly I was in the forums and typing in search questions like, how do I mix salt water, or what do I need to keep a temperature at? And did enough research that I had a 40 gallon tank of my 40 breeder was going pretty well. Threw a couple corals in there. Didn't know what I was doing with them, but they looked really awesome. So I threw them in there and they didn't die. So I was pretty happy with that. And then upgraded from the 40 gallon tank to a 65 gallon tall. So really deep, tall tank.
That's a terrible size.
I know. I learned that now. Yeah. But that was, after that was my foray into like a sump type system, because the 40 gallon tank, I had the hang on the back skimmer on there. I was doing water changes. I had the T5 light on legs on top of it, and I started with T5s and I stuck with T5s all the way through because it was plug and play success for me. It was like, plug this in, corals grow, only keep the light on for like 10 hours. I'm like, sure, I can do that. So I did the 65 gallon tank, which lasted about 2 or 3 months, and then just jumped in with a 125 gallon 6-foot tank, and then left to deploy and watch my tank from a camera, and then also start filling.
How long did it last, man, via camera?
Oh, how long did the tank last?
Yeah,
all the way till I got back. My closet was getting full with Apex gear and Radions and all this new techie equipment because I was watching the 52 weeks, and I was also researching even more. So the forums, I never did. A lot of people get introduced to the hobby and stuff through like Facebook groups, like our Facebook group, or social media type groups like that. But I never did use them as a resource. It was always forums, and then even reading articles. So I read a lot of articles from like reef builders, a lot of articles from what was that, Aqua Nerd a while back, and just different articles about different stuff. But and then mainly you too. So
he did say when he started here, he was give me like one bow down. And then it was it. I'm not going to be impressed with you ever again.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes of being starstruck, but that's all you get.
That was what you said. Yeah, that was it. All right, man. Cool, man. So, I mean, then you had your, the 90 cube?
And then, so the 125, I tore that one down as space. After moving up here to join Bulk Reef, I was like, 125 6-foot tank. That's a big footprint to try to maintain and keep and go with. So I thought, there's probably something better. Now, by this time, I'm already into SPS, and I'm into calcium reactors, and I'm, knee deep, really deep into the hobby. And so I picked up a 93 gallon cube, had a custom stand made from a guy here in Wisconsin, one of the local reefers here, and had the custom stand made, was doing the build threads, and then I ended up with like frag systems down in the basement, another 40 gallon breeder that I found on Craigslist. Craigslist is a great place to pick up used equipment and used
especially
tanks
if you need your fourth tank.
Yeah, well. Oh, if it's not your main display that you're dumping a bunch of money in, go to Craigslist, find some used stuff. But then I was when I was in Kansas, I was wheeling and dealing corals for a while. So we'd get together with a whole bunch of corals. We'd run to Kansas City and we'd sell them all to hobbyists. We'd go to the local fish stores and we'd exchange corals for store credit. So that's where a lot of my equipment came from. So I didn't have to pay for it up front. But store credit really helped out. And then I was helping out at the store a lot and became a Ecotech forum moderator unofficial moderator over on Reef to Reef, because I was big into Ecotech gear and I loved how techy it was and learned the ins and outs of all the Ecotech gear.
I was just talking to somebody I know that is in the radio controlled space, and they sell radio control stuff, and he's just like, you know what guys love more than anything else? The most complex hobby you can possibly find.
Yeah.
The more complex and the harder it is, the more guys will like it. And they're like, you know what? I don't know if that's universally true, but it's definitely true for me. The bigger challenge it was, the more fun it is. Yeah, for sure. So
yeah. So I mean, now I sit here with no tank. Well, I got a small tank that I'm restarting another tank in the office, but I don't keep a tank at home anymore. So, but you will. Apparently.
Yeah, off and on, move and stuff, man. You just moved not that long ago. What are you gonna do? Hey, Carlos, will you do me a favor and go grab a book called Fundamentals of Water or something from Jason Smith? He'll find one. I just want to share that later.
Yeah, so you did a lot of yours from book learning type stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I borrowed these ones because your office was closed, so I couldn't get your library.
Yeah,
but
well, I learned some from the books, man. Yeah. Well, I don't want to interrupt you, man. So is that where about it left off? Is there more to where you learned?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I jumped in full force and learned and just read everything that I could. And I was like you were talking about the techier it is, the tougher it is, the more I like it. Before I had an Apex, I read the entire 150-some page comprehensive manual for the Apex on how to program it and what it can do.
Even though I'm not that dirty, man. I couldn't do it.
So when I got to my Apex, before I had an Apex set up, I was helping people with their Apex questions and helping them program and write programs for the stuff that they wanted it to do, just because I read the manual.
He's my go-to, by the way. So yeah.
Yeah, some things Terrence gets after me for getting wrong, but...
All right, man. So this is where I came, and I'm sorry, but I had to think about it for a little bit, man. And hey, there's another book on my desk, man, from Julian. It's like Reef something Volume 3, man. Bring that one out too. Yeah, and so this one, man, we'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah, that one goes good. All right, so I had to think about it a little bit, because it's been a while. I mean, I don't count the actual years it's like 15 years or something. And unlike you, man, I had no fish ever when I grew up, man. I don't know. I don't want to be too downtrodden, but I was too poor. There was no money for fish. I had other than beta guys once, and I overfed it and I killed it, and that was the end of that. No fishes for me. So I don't know, man. About 15 years ago, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit more than that now. I don't know. But we just stopped at a fish store and I want in. I don't know. I'm kind of an impulsive person. So I'm like, man, I want to have one of these tanks. And so, I went home and I figured out, kind of what a reasonable budget was for this, or I thought was, or, whatever. And for those of you who don't know, I was just a waiter at the time. So, I mean.
Was the tank that you saw that drew you in, was it a reef tank? Was there corals and stuff?
Oh, yeah, all the way.
Or was the full-fledged, the whole thing?
No fishes. I'm gonna go the whole way. Okay. I want a reef tank, man. Day one, harder the better, right?
They sold you the dream, just like that.
And nobody even sold me. I want that thing. And for me, I mean, how hard can it be? Yeah. I don't know. If that guy can do it, so can I. It's just a matter of work and understanding and research to be able to get there. There's no super magic science I thought, or whatnot. I don't know. It's just a fish tank. How hard can this be? And so, I went to the store and I tried to get somebody to help me. And this is probably the nicest store in Minneapolis. And I went, I won't say who it is because this isn't nice to say, but I went in there and hey man, I want to buy a fish tank, and I decided on a 90-gallon, and it was one of them wave ones on the front, which is the stupidest tank ever.
Those are great.
Yeah, I don't know. They're warp your eyes, man, when you look at them.
They're tough to find because there's some that wave to the right and some that wave to the left. And that Thai buddy of mine, he found a pair of mismatched pair, and then put them together, and so it was one big giant wave. It's really cool. Anyway.
Oh, Well, close enough. Yeah, I don't know. So then the lady came out and she's like, okay, well, if you want a tank, then, you know, you just buy this stuff. And then walked away. And I'm like, no, you misunderstood. Like, I got money. Like, just tell me what it is, and then I'll go piece it together at home, right? Like, I'm like, here it is, the money, you know? And she, like, didn't want to help me. And so I'm like, well, I don't, like, fine, I guess. I don't know. And there's a fish store, like, a block away. So I went to the other fish store, a block away, and I had the exact same experience.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm like, dude, I mean, I had $2,000 for this, you know, like I like defined, man, this is the maximum amount I could possibly justify on a tank. And that was a lot of money, man. Like, I got $2,000 here to spend on something I've never done in my whole life. Here it is. Just take it from me, but just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do it. So, like, I don't know, fine. And so I just thought about it, took a couple notes, like I said, and, you know, that wasn't a lot of help. So, you know, what I went to do after that is picked up a bunch of magazines. And those were
magazines.
Yeah, I thought like the magazine was going to teach me how to do this. And you know what? Magazines are garbage. Like, I mean, they're cool. Like, tell you some articles on like, you know, what's going on in the ocean or whatnot. But like, you can't use it to like start a reef tank.
It's not a manual.
You know, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
So I picked up these books, you know, and some of the books were definitely not so good.
So
and some of them were awesome.
Forums and things like that didn't exist.
No, not yet, man. Like, not in my world yet.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't gotten to forums yet.
Yeah.
And so, you know, some of the books did help, you know, and some of them didn't, you know, like there's definitely way, way better books out there. A lot of them are like super, super dated, you know, and like really you could already tell like just didn't apply to what we were, it's like the other bits that I had learned so far. And that's where the forums came in. And so like, I have been heavily involved in forums before. I'm like one of those people that's got like, you know, I used to be part of like a EverQuest for those that are like pre-World of Warcraft. I bet you I had 20,000.
If you know what EverQuest is, give a thumbs up in the comments.
Yeah, EverQuest, man. Like if you ruined your life with EverQuest, gave a couple years of your life to that, man, that thumbs up. I mean, I had multiple characters with hundreds of days played. Also wasted times in the forums. But I went down to the forums, man, and that's where it started to come together for me because, you know, all the people on the forums, man, are really, really into this and they're talking about it and so many of them are so helpful. I was really big on, you know, Reef Central. I think I had like, you know, 5,000 plus comments there. And, you know, and I mean, it took about that many to learn really what you're doing. You should go find it on there and look at some of the questions I asked in the beginning. You'll laugh. Also,
Snarky something is his screen name.
Yeah, they're pretty funny way in the beginning. And then on the Reef Tank, man, they had a group there that was actually local. The TC Mass is the local club, man.
For here, yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, just like digging in the forums. But I got to tell you, that is the hardest possible way to learn anything, man. 5,000 posts it takes to learn something, man.
To their credit, though, the forums, like it's organized information. Like you want to learn about reef tank equipment or reef tank lighting. Usually, there's a link to a forum, and it's all about reef tank lighting.
Yeah,
sure, yeah. You got to wade through a lot of stuff.
You got to be a search master.
Yeah.
You know, like So it's a lot. I mean, just overwhelming amount of information, but it really takes a really long time to figure out, you know, which of these members to trust and which ones, you know, are, you know, like, you know, the biggest thing is Greg Carroll's thing. Like, be wary or something. I'm going to butcher this, but it's like, be wary of anybody giving advice who is unwilling to show the results. There's a whole lot of that, you know, advice coming out like, oh, I never do water changes, I don't know, whatever. And then you're like, oh, okay, but you had a successful tank for 10 years, awesome. And then you look at it and there's like 3 half-dead frog spawns in there.
That might be success to somebody.
And that is success of some type. Is not what I was looking for. But like, you know, I think the most poignant when I saw one where, you know, somebody said the same thing. I haven't done a water change in 5 years, and look at the success, and they showed the before and after. And both of these tanks were super awesome, right? And like, if you saw either one of them, you'd say, man, like that guy knows what he's doing. But if you look at the before, there's about 30 SPS frags in there, and the after, 0. Right? And so the tanks filled with all of the LPS and whatnot grew out and became big colonies, but the SPS all dead. So like, if you don't have that kind of comparison, man, you're like, there's different flavors of success.
Right.
And it's really hard when you're going through the forum, man, to figure out who to listen to, And so one of the things that I learned a lot from, and I encourage like anybody to do it, is everybody has got like a local club.
Yeah,
right?
the local club.
And even if you don't go to the meetings, join their specific forum, because there is something to be said for accountability. If you might actually run into this person at the Pizza Hut down the street.
Or your fish store.
Yeah, or the fish store, like the quality of information goes way up. And I don't know, just the demeanor goes way up. People are just way nicer to each other in these clubs for the most part. And so, they just put more thought into the answers often. And that's just the nature of it. It's a community instead of, widespread. So, I got a lot of information that from one of them, man, was David Greger. And I think that he just recently kind of got out of the hobby, which is sad. But I don't know if he knows it, but like to me, he was kind of a mentor, and that guy always put thought into what he was going to share. He, really, really wanted to understand not just the why or how, but the why, and then research the best possible option within the why, and then share it. And there's like no, marketable jargon. He wasn't like tied to some specific brand or anything. And, really, really thought about what the individual is asking, not what he bought. Which is a big thing, man. We all have it. We all have kind of purchase defense. Like, if I'm going to spend $4,000 on lighting and a $2,000 protein skimmer, you know which one is the best one?
You can't convince me otherwise. That
the one I buy is the best one,
course.
man. Of course. Otherwise, I made the wrong decision.
True.
So yeah, I never had that, man. So David Greger, if you're out there, thank you very much. Guy came over to my house, showed me how to do kalkwasser, showed me how to do two-part, and like showed me all kinds of different things right in the beginning, man, when it was most important to me, and things that were really complex. Because I go to the fish store and literally they give me a thing of turbo, calcium, and says, use calcium every once in a while on Thursday, skip holidays because, it's a holiday. To me, I did it. I put a scoop in every once in a while and really didn't do much, and like nobody told me about alkalinity or anything back then. And so like, well, why am I wasting my time with this? Yeah. David came over, man. I had tons of little SPS frags. They're like about this big, and stayed up about that big for a year. And then he showed me the light, and boom, I had like a whole tank full of coral, man. So, that was a big piece for me. Like, so mixing that in, you're building knowledge upon knowledge and just trying to geek out on it. I got 5,000 posts on the forums. I'm a part of a local reef club, hanging out in people's basements, looking at the reef tanks, And, man, I'm really trying to learn about this stuff. And this is the wrong book that Carlos, man, he screwed up. But, this one is the Reef Aquarium from Charles and Julian Sprung here. And, the one that I actually picked up first was the volume 3, which really, explains all of the gear. And it does it like in a, really good format. It's 700 pages, man, but I read this thing cover to cover. And so at that point, man, I really understood, how all of this stuff works together, and the basics of every piece of equipment out there. But I gotta tell you, 700 pages is a pretty big investment, man. Like, not everybody wants to read 700 pages of a book like this just to set up a tank. That's a pretty big investment. And at the time, man, YouTube wasn't a thing. There was nobody on YouTube that was really sharing a lot of information on how to do it, and, or certainly not in like a usable format. And so it was really books, dig through the forums, and then I found Randy Holmes Farley's articles, right? Yeah. How many you read, do you think?
Probably all of them in some form or fashion, but I've banked on. Just this morning I was reading Randy Holmes Farley original article about two-part mixing and the different recipes that he had. Just to refresh myself on parts per million of the solutions and how they're mixed and why they're mixed that way. Mostly a lot of the why, because having like a scientific eye or the chemist eye on some of this tank chemistry that sometimes over my head, quite a bit of times over my head. Yeah. But as somebody who can dumb it down for me to understand, super valuable.
Well, I don't know if he dumbs it down or not, but yeah, I mean, it's there.
For some reason, I can understand it, but I just this morning for sure.
So for me, man, like we were just talking about like the different types of learning that people have, and I forget the actual names of them, but there's people out there that listen to their mother, don't touch the stove, and they don't have to challenge that, man. They don't need to burn themselves. They just don't touch the stove because the mom told you not to. There's other people that will watch their brother touch the stove. see him burn himself and say, no way am I touching the stove. And then there's people like me. I gotta go burn myself just to know like exactly what it is I'm supposed to not do, you know. And so like you really need to dig in, man, to find all levels of kind of information. And so, you know, for me, the why or the how just ain't good enough. I want to know the why, and then I want to know the supporting information of why. And one of the best resources was the 8 billion articles from Randy's Home Farley. And he has or at one point he had a whole list of other articles, even other scientists and stuff. And so I read all of it, tried to understand it the best I possibly could, read them all again, and, you know, probably understood a third of it as I read through it the first time, you know, and progressively had aha moments. In fact, at one point, Randy probably doesn't know this, Holmes Farley, like I printed out like all of those articles, and we had learning sessions here, and like we even had like kind of medallions and stuff if you learned enough of these, and we had quizzes and stuff on here, because like it's one of the best resources out there to get really geeky on reefing and understand the why, just not the how, man. And I don't know, at some point we transformed those into, you know, different learning sessions that we have every week, but like for a while there, I mean, those were the best tools out there, not only for me to learn, but for, you know, the guys here to learn about reefing as well. And then came this guy, man, you know, water treatment fundamentals. I mean, this is gotta be the most boring
outside
book.
of the hobby.
It has nothing to do with reefing. So, you know, at one point we got really into RODI stuff, man, and we're building it here, and I just want to learn more and more and more and more about it. Like, I don't want to be the guy that like screws a bunch of RO cans together and, you know, sells it, calls it a day. Like, for me, I want to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it's going to be the best, right? And so I'm going to like every trade show in Europe and here, and I'm trying to get WQA certified so that I can, you know, be like have a different standard of knowledge on how to build these water filters for, you know, all of our people that trust us. And so part of that was reading this book and then passing like a test on this, you know, 400-page book. And this one really changed like my whole like understanding of what we were doing here, because there's a guy out there that once said what we're doing here is not maintaining reef tanks. What we're doing is maintaining water. And having a healthy tank that's full of healthy corals is just a byproduct of maintaining water. And I just couldn't agree more. So this book here actually teaches you the science of water, you know, and how water works, and how all the little molecules work, and all the different types of filtration. Like once you understand it, man, all of it applies back to reefing. Like almost every little thing. You know, your water softener, all of a sudden, like really understand how that works. Really, all of a sudden, you really understand how DI works. And maybe if you watched our videos, you get a little glimpse into that anyway. But prior to that, you know, there wasn't a lot of that stuff out there. So this book transformed what I knew about water, and what meant after that, how what I knew about reefing as well, once we applied that. And then after a while, like all the guys here were getting WQA certified. Eventually, like, just read the book here. We don't need to pay for the certification because it was really expensive. But, you know, and now the knowledge from this type of thing is just so permeated in here. But, you know, this one really changed the game for me. And you know what it did, actually, is then after I read and understood this book, I went back to Randy Holmes Farley's articles, and instead of understanding a third of it, I understood the whole thing. So, you know, from end to end, I shouldn't say the whole thing. I got like, I understood 90% of it, right? And so, you know, like I understand now why we're doing all this stuff and why it all builds up. And for me, you know, it's funny actually. This book right here, somebody caught me reading it in Hawaii. So like I was on a beach on my vacation, and then here I am like reading this nerdy thing, and this lady came up and like totally berated me, and she's just like, "You're on vacation. What are you doing with this book?" And I'm like, "Leave me alone, man. This is what I like to do." So, you know, that was a big deal for me, and that's where I really learned, man, that was like an evolutionary step for me, for sure. You know, in relation to that, man, you know, probably earlier in this, I went to some MACNAs and listened to the experts talk at those things. You know, definitely the first time you go to a MACNA and you sit there and listen to all the speakers, you're like, oh, wow, man, there's a whole new world, you know. After that, it gets a little bit repetitive, but, you know, like the first time, man, is an eye-opener, and then you can ask some of these guys that, you know, you look up to and say, oh, they'll give you real answers, you know, to your actual aquarium, you know, which is super valuable. And then, you know, you get into some other more geeky books, like, you know, he's not super popular these days, but Anthony Calfo was big when I started. And he was into propagation, and I really wanted to get into propagation. And I mean, his book's a little bit ADD. It's all over the place, but there's so much information in here. You know, it's just a wealth of experience and information. So, you know, you just kind of organize it the best you can.
Like what kind of, like how to chop this coral and glue it to this thing?
Yeah, I mean, like down to like the smallest, like you know, trying to do this if you're trying to do propagation, it's growing these things proper, but also like saving on energy and whatnot. So like doing an airlift, you know, like I never knew what an airlift was before that. And at the time, man, power heads were super expensive. And so an airlift is just a big pipe, you know, with the air bubbles going down to the bottom, and the air causes water to go at the bottom, come through the bottom, come out the top, and creates flow in the tank for super cheap.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like if you have a big air generator, man, you can create a tremendous amount of flow in a wide area. So, you know, taking all these little tidbits, you know, and then applying them to, you know, what you want to do at home or even more than that was super valuable. You know, and I'm trying to think of what else, man. Like, where else did I really learn this stuff here? I'll say here, you know, one of the things that we do here, you know, you get to listen to these videos, man, but like, you know, one of the things that you're going to, before this video comes out, like, come talk to Randy, man.
Talk
like
to
everybody, like, hey, man, what do you guys think about heaters? Like, this is what my mind's putting heaters together this way, man. Like, what do you think, man? Steel sharpening steel here. And, like, if you explained it this way, do you think that's accurate? Do you think that that's the best way to share it, man? And, like, I'm looking for some balance between, you know, the best possible information and stuff that you can actually digest and use, you know? And, like, we're not ever looking for that mythical, you know, best for everybody, because that doesn't exist. But, you know, really trying to find the best possible usable information. And so, you know, I mean, every Friday, the whole CS team and me and a couple other members of the team, you know, we eat pizza at lunch. That's why the phones are off, by the way. If you recall, on Friday at noon, the phones are off because we're eating pizza and we're learning about reefing.
That's true.
You know, so every week, man, we just got to keep talking about this stuff and keep learning, because this is a reefing company. You know, like, it's in our DNA, and like, we're not, you know, selling pencils and paper here. You know, like, you know, we want to really know and care and be passionate about what we do. You know, and then I think at some point, man, you finally get enough articles and or enough knowledge, and then there's a whole new level, man, and it's Dana Riddle.
Oh, yeah, getting into lighting now.
Well, not just lighting, man, but like understand that guy's articles. It drives me crazy because there's so much knowledge. Like, go look at his stuff, and the first thing, unless you're super smart, you'll read the thing and you're like, oh my gosh, man, this is like written like
even the abstract will cross your eyes.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm done. Right? And so the first thing I'd say is don't be done. Actually, just skip to the end. Go down to the conclusion, read that. You'll probably understand that part and gain all the knowledge. And if you want to understand the why, like, go back through it again like 5 times. But I mean, he's so smart, man. And he's sharing so much information, and he's sharing it in the way that it should be shared, which is this, you know, highly technical, well-researched stuff, you know. But for me, what I kind of want to do is take some of that stuff and like dumb it down like 3 notches, you know, so that, like, you know, Randy and I can understand it and he can share it, you know. And I mean, I say it facetiously, but, you know, like, get it down to a point, man, where the valuable stuff is here and we leave kind of the, you know, technical jargon behind that isn't as important.
But it's there if you want to go find it on your own too. That's another thing. That's like, you can bring it down and explain it to a certain level, and there's still the people that are going to be out there like, I need to know more, and it's out there.
Well, so I just, like, there's a point, man, where knowledge is not of any value if nobody listening understands it. Right? And, like, it can definitely get too geeky, you know? And so it's that balance between not dumbing it down that, like, everybody knows this stuff and, like, so sciencey that I don't want to listen to it. Finding that part, man, like, now I understand, and even better, I know how to apply it to my tank. Like, that is that magic hybrid, right? Like, this is a hobby. I'm not getting a PhD here, and I'm also no dummy. You know, like, I didn't got a beta fish in my thing, man. Like, yeah. So, you know, I guess that the thing, man, that really ends up now is just that endless internal debate, man. And now I get to step it up even, man. I have endless internal debate with, you know, some of the, you know, industry leaders, you know, who spent their hearts and souls in it. You know, people like Terrence from Neptune, man. that guy has given me so many 3-hour morning sessions on the phone, man. Specifically in the summer, I sit on my porch and I just pick his brain for all kinds of stuff. He picks mine. And again, steel sharpening steel, just trying to find the best solutions possible for our tanks and how to share that information with other people. I don't think it's a surprise that he does videos and stuff too, you know, because like, you know, that's kind of what we're doing. You know, Jeremy at Brightwell has definitely spent so much time. Specifically, man, he helps me a lot with, you know, how to share this information in a way that you guys find valuable. You know, like, hey, man, that was dumb. Like, you totally put me in Snorefest. That part, man, I really got it. And I really understood. He watches it and gives me feedback. And, you know, we can really dig into all that stuff. And I just can't, I told him the other day, my own dinner, man, because it is so valuable to me to be able to get, you know, real feedback on how we deliver information and how it's useful, and like how does he give me information from his experiences. So, you know, getting to do that with all the people in the industry, super awesome. And you know what, man, also I think the last piece is it just like never really ends, man. Like, so now we have this hashtag Ask BRS TV thing, the group on Facebook, and like I don't get to answer as many as possible because I got 2 kids at home and I'm super busy during the day here, but I read a lot of them, you know, and like, man, you know, it's just interesting because like, man, that was a really great idea to do it that way, you know, and like, I just didn't think about it that way. And people are just constantly sharpening each other, sharing information, and it's just like a never ending thing. So, I mean, now, you know, YouTube's out there. I didn't get the, you know, real chance to learn from
That's
YouTube,
huge,
but like, you know, personally, but you know, the reason that this whole channel actually exists, man, is because one day I went to my business partner and I'm like, hey, man, like, we're broke, you know, like there's no money in this business. Like it's plugging along. We're selling salt and stuff, but I want to buy a $1,000 camcorder. Like, that's a big deal, you know, like, you know, a really big deal, in fact. And I'm also going to pull myself off of other things. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, I don't think people understand how to do 2-part, man, because I talk to so many people. We answer this question over and over and over again, and like, people just don't get it. And actually, most of them think that calcium is most important, and they don't even talk about alkalinity, and they don't know that you're supposed to do it in unison, and they don't know that, like, if you just did it that simple, that it produces this kind of result. And like, all of you guys probably know, you know, you got a chance to read and watch that, but I'm telling you, like, you know, 10 plus years ago, dude, like, something as simple as 2-part was not as well understood back then, man. It just wasn't, man. It wasn't described as easily. And so you go shoot a little video, and what? You're like, hey, man, there's a jug of A with calcium in it, jug of B with alkalinity in it.
You show it.
You put both in at the same time, or different times, I guess, but you put a little bit of both in there, equal amounts, test. If it drops, use more. And then what's going to happen is your tank's going to thank you for it, and it's going to show results. And
well, I mean,
like,
you've taken a chapter like this thick out of a book.
Yeah, like I've taken 2-part alkalinity, 40 pages here, and summarized it into a minute and a half.
And to the point where it's like, now you see people like, hey, you have a question about 2-part? You got a question about whatever? Here's a link to this video. Just watch it and come back.
Yeah, we'll watch it and come back. Yeah, man. Like, I mean, the only problem with the stuff that I shoot is it just drones on forever. You know, it's like, here, watch this, not 2-part minute. Here is the
about minute 40 and 35 seconds. This is the information you're asking about.
Well, you know, it's funny because like, I feel compelled, man. I mean, really, most of these videos, I could like walk on set and like, hey, use 2-part. BRS is the best. Out. You know, like, you know, like, really, this is the end of it. But I feel like that isn't enough, man. Like, you gotta not just say the why or the what to do, man, but how to do it and the why, and then back it up, man, with like well thought out research, as well as, you know, just things that make sense, you know, reasoning. And experience, right? This is why we do it. This is the type of results that we see when we do it. And there may be better ways, but this is a way that you can have success, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just about that last 10 seconds, which is the last 10 seconds you can get from just about anywhere. It's about the actual 35 minutes that led up to that 10 seconds to like make a compelling case as to why this is of value. Like, why should you listen to anybody? You know, what's the reason, right? And so I can't write it any other way. You know, I just can't. I just, like, I try so hard, like, hey, this one's going to be shorter. I mean, like, this week, hey, how many minutes is heaters this week?
30.
Okay, so
30
I'm talking about chemistry, you know, the hybrid method.
You walk into my office today and you go, I wrote 30 minutes on heaters. I said, what?
I know, man. Like, what could you possibly say about a heater for 30 minutes,
man? Even speaking back to that last 10 seconds of the build-up, you said, well, at the end, I pretty much just say put a couple heaters in your tank for redundancy and call it a day.
I mean, it's a little more than that. It's redundant thermostats, redundant heaters, and a couple of methodologies to it. But that part takes 3 minutes, man. The other part's 27, right? Yeah. But it's building a strong case for, like, you know, why this is the case. This is our experience. This is WWC's experience. You know, these are the things that we know for sure, some debatable stuff, and it all compiles together into a compelling case, you know, for this thing. And, you know, actually, this is a good point. You would not believe just like how much I learned from writing these things, man. Because you know what it takes you to do is you got to take. I mean, I'm gonna write a 10-page, you know, essentially report on heaters.
So you're researching it at the same time.
I'm taking my own knowledge, taking your knowledge, I'm taking the team's knowledge. I'm like, you know, researching the internet. I'm like, you know, scrambling all the things I know about heaters and like building them into like one compelling story, man. And you know what, man, all the time, man, like, you know what, like, I just didn't know it, but now I know it. You know, like, that is why all those experiences went that way. Yeah. You know, and, you know, it's the, you know, component, man, of just writing it down and, like, building it together. So, all right, man, that was 40 minutes of where we learned how to reef, man. So it's time to answer some questions. I'm sorry that you had to listen to that whole thing.
Hey, it's Ryan's birthday, by the way. We'll keep those happy birthday comments coming
I love cake, so you can send cake in. No, I'm kidding.
Look at what we got.
All right, what do we got here?
52 weeks did it for, I've seen a lot of those comments. 52 weeks was where they learned.
Yeah, you know what? So some of the people, you know, that was a goal for me, actually. So you probably would never know this, but like prior to 52 weeks, you know, the goal was actually to build a book, you know, like a video book, right, on reefing. So it took like chemistry, and I exploded it out into like 4 episodes, and then it took, you know, plumbing or, you know, sump design or whatever, and exploded out into 4 episodes, and then like there was like a whole video book. So like, hey, you don't have to go like read 700 pages anymore, right? It just didn't like come together for some reason. Like all the information was there, everybody watched them, whatever. It just never felt like the book, and so it didn't feel like somebody would watch end to end. And then we had the idea for the 52 weeks of reefing, which to me, like, you know, there's ideas that you have afterward, and you're like, I understand why that was awesome. Right? And the time, we're like, hey, let's set up a thing and talk about stuff, you know, and just do our best. You know, it's probably a little bit more than that. But, you know, afterwards, what we found, man, is like, hey, we talked about it, we attached it to a story, you know, you get to follow on the tank. And then more importantly, like, you can listen to anybody talk about anything, you know, but like, where's the results? So in this case, you could do it 100 different ways, but like, you know what, if you did it this way, there's your results. What you can expect. You know, you want to do better, go ahead and do it better. But like if you're satisfied with this, which a lot of people I think would be, you know, so like there it is. It's the proof is in the pudding. And so like, it's not just about, you know, can you stand up on the stage and like, you know, yell ideas at people. Like if you apply those ideas, what comes out the other side? You know, so that was super cool. And so like, I appreciate that, you know, that was just super fun. You know, I kept saying all throughout that I feel like this was my one's life creation. You know, like if I can just make it to the end of this thing, you know, this will be the best thing that ever happened, man. I was really, really happy. Dave, man, on the other side of the camera here, like, people probably don't value it or know it, but like, I mean, I can stand up, and this morning I shot a half hour of heaters, you know, and you just heard me talking, blabbing away about heaters. And I'll come back on Thursday, and you'll have all 30 minutes totally polished. I'll have 3 little fixes. And anybody in the video industry that can say that you can conceptualize, you know, write, shoot, edit, upload, do the whole thing of 30 minutes. This is essentially like an episode of This Old Tank done by 2 guys who also have other jobs to do inside of a week, man, is a insane, you know, thing to do. So, you know, we do our best, but like Dave just makes me look good for sure. So thank you, Dave. All right. What else we got here?
Let's see. King of DIY was the one that some people learned from. Julian Sprung's name's up there.
Yeah, Julian, man, that book, I just can't thank him enough, man, for volume 3, because that really revolutionized the whole thing for me, for sure. What do we got here?
At which point, where does that go? I lost. There it is. At which point in your hobby, and did you realize that you wanted to start BRS?
You know what? Me personally, I didn't know at the time, but I'm like a born serial entrepreneur, and so like I didn't know at the time, man. But I talked to like a guy that leads entrepreneurs, and he asked me what my first job was, and I'm like, well, in third grade, I figured out that you could go buy packs of gum, for $1, and then sell each one for 25 cents. So that's what I did. So I created my own little business in third grade, and I brought candy to school and had my own little candy store.
Yeah.
And like all I saw there, like looking back at it, was, hey man, I saw demand. People wanted something, and nobody was giving it to them, which in this case was third graders and candy. And what I wanted is even more candy. I want to buy my own candy. So that, and then a whole bunch of other things, like part of EverQuest. We actually sold like virtual swords and stuff. Man, it was a great business. But
this is actually one where I see. I was reading this one, and it just popped out at me. He said, Jason Bauer said, he learned by reading and watching his dad, and then did it himself with trial and error. And this is probably what I see Flynn doing in his lifetime.
Yeah, my son.
Learning from you.
Yeah, hopefully he will absolutely be a reefer, man. He's only
Hands
2.5, but
you just need a tank in your house.
But back to the reefing thing, man, or the BRS thing. What I saw was, hey, man, actually it was all David Greger. He came over, showed me what 2-part was, and at the time we were using Dow Flake and some other stuff like that before they changed the formulation. But and I'm like, man, this is great. I put in a couple of dosing pumps and it works. And then I just all over the internet, like I can't find that, like Dead Sea Meg Flake anywhere.
Yeah.
I can't find the right Dow Flakes, not in any non-winter states. And I'm like, hey Andrew, man, like they have all this stuff here in Minnesota. Like, why don't we put it in a container and sell it, for $12 or whatever, a gallon of it? Like, it's a win-win. You get a lifetime supply of calcium, and we get $12. Man, I don't know what happened, but thank you guys all. But day one, man, we had 10 orders a day. I don't know where they came from or whatever happened. And for those of you who don't know, then that was called 2partsolution.com. And then, after that, some guy would call me up and say, hey, man, I would really like if you sold bulk carbon. And I'm like, all right, well, we don't sell carbon. He's like, no. My friend Jerry over at Norate, already he's the senior vice president or whatever over there. Yeah. And I already got you terms, and we got shipping terms and everything for you. If you would just buy this stuff from them, I'll buy it from you. Like, okay. Then before you know it, it was RO systems, and it was light bulbs and all kinds of other stuff the exact same way. And I would say that half of our stuff in the beginning came because a customer said, you know what, I'd love to buy this in bulk from you if you would just sell it. And my buddy Jerry sells it in bulk. They're like, oh, sweet.
Wow.
In fact, actually, that's how that went down with our recent soda ash. So we went to the farmer grade soda ash. The guy calls me up and says, look, man, I'm a super reefer. He actually lives in Europe and part of one of the biggest chemical companies in the world. And he's like, dude, we have this soda ash here, man, and I want to be able to provide it to reefers, but USP grade soda ash, man, that stuff is like $30 a pound sold to the pharmaceutical industry. If you promise me to never, ever, ever sell it to the pharmaceutical industry, then we can get it to a reasonable price. But they don't know. Just don't ever do this. And so even reefers, man, in these industries, man, are helping us out, helping out you guys, because that stuff just wouldn't be possible otherwise. The pharmaceutical industry is expensive, man. Yeah. And so, granted, we're buying full container loads, coming over on the ships and stuff, but it just really wouldn't be possible if you guys didn't have the demand, and there weren't reefers out there in a lot of really important areas trying to help the whole community out together. So that's kind of about where it went together.
That's cool.
All right, what else we got?
This one here, where did it go? Eric Anderson. He says, this is a pretty interesting question. Are most of the books pretty dated now, do you think? Or do you think there's still value in them?
I mean, writing a book at this point, man, is a pretty big endeavor, right? And nobody's buying books anymore. So paper books, and not this hobby's pretty small to be doing that. So I haven't seen a new one issued in a long time. And in fact, most of the even Julian's super popular books are now only available in a e-format.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of them haven't really been updated. So, I mean, the reality is general hobbyist doesn't want to read 700 pages. I laughed at you for reading 150 pages of the Apex,
The
instructions.
manual, yeah.
Like that's a lot for a hobby, man. So, they're super, super valuable to the people that want it, but the people that want it are actually a minority. So, I don't know if I'd call them dated per se. I just say that, the nature of writing something, editing it, getting it to print, and then getting it distributed means it's probably 2 years old.
Already,
And this hobby's changing so fast. I mean, the stuff that I thought I knew 2 years ago, like you see us all the time, man. Like the stuff that we talked about in the BRS 160, it's just different with the hybrid series now, man. Like what we thought we knew. I mean, some of the things you correct and solve for, well, you solved too good. Now you need to like go the other direction a little bit, and it's just trying to figure it out. So. 2 years is a really long time. And that's like from the date you wrote it, you had the idea to write it, to the day that somebody bought it. And now it's been out for 2 years. Now it's like ancient history.
I still think there's value in them in like after, say, for me, example, like the amount that I know about the hobby now, to go back and read some of this, there's probably little tidbits in there to pull out. There's probably, and then books like these for sure. These are Nick's books, our wholesale account manager, but he's loves the old scientific approach to the corals and the fish and stuff like that. Like fish names and corals and species and families and genuses don't really change all too often unless they find new ones, in which case if you're really into identifying corals and fish, and even some of these have like care in them too for how to keep them specifically.
That's a good point, man. I would say that there are really two different types of like knowledge sets in this hobby, and like they tend to not cross over a whole lot. There's just kind of different experts in different fields. And so for me, I'm a self-professed like gear junkie. And so like equipment, it's not like I just want gear for gear's sake, but like I would call it a life support junkie, man. Like I want a system design proper to, like to its application, right? And other people, man, like just get totally geeked out on the animals and getting the proper names and, just totally geeked out on all the different types of fish and whatnot. And they generally don't cross over. And they both lead to similar paths of success for some reason. But like, if you want to learn from somebody, like you often are going to have multiple sources of information, because one tends to really geek out on system design and science and theory behind it, and the other one's just like total focus on the animals. And so I think that's pretty interesting. All right.
What else we got here?
I just saw one in here. I don't know where it's lost, but somebody said Randy Holmes Farley changed the whole industry. I totally agree. Like that level of independent knowledge and the time that he put into it. I mean, like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen him answer the same question over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Seemingly never gets sick of it, and always ends it with happy reefing.
It's this, tagline.
Generally positivity. He's not willing, not afraid to challenge anybody. And, we all have our own, like, kind of biases. And I think his bias is, pretty evident in the essence that, like, you need to prove this works before I use it. And you need to prove that it's of value beyond, like cheaper alternative resources for this stuff. And so, with that, times some conversations swing a little too hard that way, because some of this stuff, man, it's biology and reefs, man. There is some mystery here that you'll never be able to prove, and if you only work on the stuff that you can prove, you're probably going to miss some, But I will tell you that I think I lean his way, in a vast majority of the time, man. Like, it definitely has changed the way that people have looked at this stuff. Took a lot of the smoke and mirrors away. The magic elixirs are labeled magic elixirs now, and like, I would say most of the people in the industry are like afraid to talk to him. The people that make something, because they know that he's smarter than them. you know, and in many cases, the only thing is like he also doesn't have like the 800-gallon aquarium full of SPS corals. He's really seems to be into the theory behind it rather than the exact application. So again, man, like, if there's somebody that's like super gear junkie, then there's a super science junkie, and the super science junkie might not even have an aquarium, and because of that, it's not like perfect knowledge, but like, it's a source of knowledge you'd never get anywhere else, especially at that level. And so when you start mixing the gear junkie, the science junkie with the animal junkie, man, there's
an
like
application for all of it.
That's a good point, man. I just like remember, man, like always apply to the application, right? So take whatever knowledge you got and you're trying to learn, and then apply it to what you're trying to do, not some mythical thing that somebody else has done before. What else we got in here? Questions. I got to cut out in 6 minutes here, so we got a 6-minute hard stop. There's a good question, man. David here. How big is your new tank going to be?
I saw that one.
All right, so
if you guys aren't following Ryan on Instagram, it's at Ryan BRS. He's posted some pictures of this potential place for new tanks to go.
I've been crossing my fingers. I bought a new house, my wife just keeps moving me all over the place. I don't know. She wants to raise her kids here, there, wherever. I don't know. So I've been in transition. So I had a condo that I was in for a little bit. And then I had this house that, I'm trying to figure out how to put a tank in, but it was built in like 1908. And so like anywhere I put it, the basement's a dungeon. And if I'm gonna put it above, man, I gotta start putting in reinforced steel beams to hold anything real. Like all of a sudden the project just collapses under its own weight or whatever. But now, man, like we're moving into a brand new home. Man, it has a perfect spot for one. Like maybe 2 or 3,
a fish room.
I'm looking, I'm looking at it like, actually, man, if we put pipe through the walls, man, I think that we could actually get tanks all over, right? And so I find it like, I think I found like the home that we're going to raise my children in, so I don't get to just keep, a slew of tanks here at the office. I'm going to bring one home too. And so I don't know how big it's going to be, but if I had to guess, it probably will be like, 8 feet by 30 inches deep by 30 inches tall-ish or something like that, and so, a pretty decent size, but like also you can't swim in it. Like I need to have a reasonable expectation for my time, but it'll be pretty big. I think one of the things that Randy and I were talking about, and like, are we just going to do the same old build thread? Like, here's what we know about heaters, no,
for Ryan's tank. Like, first of all, we agree that everybody wants to see a tank go up in Ryan's house. I'm pretty sure that's universally agreed upon. I do.
No, I don't know. But I was thinking, man, hey Randy, what if we instead of do that kind of thing, what if we do it maybe live? I don't know, but like more live-ish, more real time, and like, hey, we'll go up here. Like, all right, man. So where are the tanks gonna go? And we'll just sit there and talk about where this tank's going to go, how big it should be, whatever, blah, blah. I mean, can I reach to the back, man, figure out all the challenges? Like, can I still clean the power heads if I go that wide? And, really, really dig into it. And then, like, hey, okay, so it's this big. Well, it's on carpet, man. Are we going to go tile or are we going to leave it on carpet? Well, the carpet's just stupid. Right now it's okay, but long term, man, I should just spend the time now to tile it, right? Okay, so we're going to plumb it into the other room, man. Well, the other room also has my power in it, like the power control box for the whole house. Like, there's like humidity in there. Like, how are we going to get the humidity out? All right, well, you know what? I see a cold air return over there. Let's cut a hole in it and then put a return air replacement in it. Like, just really, really, really geek out on this and talk about an actual, installation of a big tank in a home environment. All the crazy little things that you need to think about, right? And like, you can listen to us debate all the tiny, little teeny things in real time. Maybe we'll do it live. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But
and then actually build it.
Yeah, and actually build it. I mean, it's probably going to take a long time if we're going to be that nerdy about it. But like, I think it'd be super fun to do. And even if you don't, I'm going to do it anyway. So I don't know. It's going to be super fun. What else we got here, man? We got 2 minutes.
Couple minutes.
By the way, I would expect to see that like maybe summer. I don't know. I got to move in and stuff. So I don't know. stuff like that. How about a video that shows us what information's changed since you've done the BRS 160? You know, that's a great idea, man. Maybe that'd be the next update. Thank you, Jacob.
Actually,
yeah, like, okay, well, here's the information that we thought we knew,
Yeah.
you know, when we did this. I mean, it's not like going to be flipped on its head or anything like that, but here's a subtle tweak that we found.
kind of went this
man.
way with it now.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I think the one that we share a lot, man, is like at one point we went to Triton. You know, we're going to try this out. Made a lot of sense, whatever. And I still totally support the 4-part method of Triton, and it absolutely works. But for me, just turns out that it's easier for me to set up an out-of-water change than it is to send in test kits.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'll still send in one of those test kits every 6 to 12 months or whatever, make sure whatever I'm doing isn't like totally deviating. And I do like the Core 7 product because it replaces elements that other 2 parts don't, specific to a refugium, which is really unique to their application. But like I just don't really need to play mad scientist and try to add all the little bottles, and it totally works. It's just a totally different method than what I would do.
Yeah.
And so that fits totally perfect inside of, hey, what did you learn then? What do you learn now? What would you do? And it's not that it doesn't work. It's just, I just prefer to do it different.
Idea for an update.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Do one more?
Okay, what else? Well, one more, man, one more. Let's see here.
I don't know.
Oh, last time I went to LFS, I was shocked. They now carry BRS products. You know what?
Cool.
I mean, I don't know how to really address this one appropriately, but like, you know, in the beginning, we're competitors with each other, you know, the fish store and us.
Yeah.
For me, man, I think the fish store is like, you know, where everybody starts. So I don't want to think about it as a competitive environment, but in the end, man, like, it kind of is, you know. So I don't know how to get around it, but you know, like I think there's a lot of the newer breed of pet stores that fish stores that came in and like we were already in existence when they came. Well, like they're just living in a new world. It's like we were always there, so it really doesn't matter. You know, like you don't think about it that way.
Yeah, true.
You know, and so you know they stock our products because it's what people want to buy. They want to buy this 2-part. They want to buy these chemicals and whatever, and they know full well that they need to provide good service in the store, or people are just gonna buy stuff online. You know, and that's the case of like, it doesn't matter if you're Best Buy or, Petco or whatever, man, like you have to have a reason to go to a store.
Yeah.
You know, and like otherwise Amazon will drop the thing on my doorstep in about an hour. You know, a little helicopter dropped it off. So like, and like you can support that, not support that, it doesn't really matter, but like, it's a reality. You like if you're gonna have a hard goods store, man, you have to provide value. And so we give a really good deal on that stuff to stores. Like I don't think we make hardly anything on it, and so that they can sell it. And a lot of them will say, you know what, it's actually cheaper for me to say, oh, you want to know about carbon? Go watch BRS's thing on carbon, man. Come back and I'll help you with anything else you want. We also have it here so you can buy it, and not have to wait for it or whatnot. And so I think you're starting to see a meld, man, between, those two things. And I mean, like, I try to support the store anytime I can, man, and I never would actively try to take anything away from them because they're the beginning in all of what we do here in reefing, all of us together.
For sure.
All right, one more.
And as we start to, when you look for this, and maybe we can pull this off at the end here. Dave's got a few of your old tanks lined up here.
Well, throw it up.
When we close, we can answer one while we close, or we can.
Is that
walk
video,
away.
Dave, or is that
It's
just
video,
a picture?
So yeah.
I'm gonna throw it up there. Let's see how this goes.
So.
I mean, this is my first tank, man. I mean, I'm sorry that this is so old. And
look at it though.
Yeah, this is my first 90, man. This is my first attempt at reefing. I wish my camera on my phone was way better. But
for those of you listening on a podcast, which will be coming soon eventually, we're
there was
showing
just
Ryan's
like
tank,
a frag.
There's a clam in there. You got a clam.
Yeah, man. And people told me those rock anemones wouldn't live. That was nonsense.
Look at
Absolutely
the
did.
there.
Yeah, that was just like a little frags. Yeah, all those like David Greger helped me go from 1 inch to that guy.
There's a pencil urchin in there.
All kinds of those urchins in there. So that was the Tampa Bay saltwater rock that was in there. It was super fun. Came with all kinds of pests though. So.
More of your clam.
Yeah, man. Where did you find this? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so this is no sump, by the way. Just hang on gear and Tech T5 fluorescent light.
What's the next one?
Well, hey man, go back to this one actually. Will you go back to that shot with You can't go back?
We're on it. It's rolling right now.
Oh, it's just rolling? All right, well, so, yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about this one for a second. You know, so, I mean, this tank's got clams in it. It's got SPS. It's got anemones that people told me were going to die for sure. It's got, like, really everything you could possibly put into it.
That's a really nice colony, too.
Other than what it didn't have was a sump and all kinds of expensive equipment.
Yeah.
You know, it just had a hang-on fuge, a hang-on skimmer, and some T5 lights, you know, in a very inefficient T5 lights.
Yeah.
You know, like the tech lights are not like your ATI lights at all.
But look at it.
Yeah, and so, man, I thought it turned out really good for my first attempt at this, you know? And, like, so it doesn't have to be that complex. You know, all that stuff was tiny little frags when it started. So, is that an MJ mod on the side there or a high door? I can't tell.
I think it's a high door-ish.
Yeah, obviously I couldn't figure out how to keep the zoanthids in check. But, yeah, I don't know. So what's the next one, man?
That's cool. 27-second clip here. Let's do this one.
Oh, yeah, well, that one's just the 40 breeder that was in my house.
Oh,
you know, so that one was like an instant tank. We just threw that thing up like one day and like, all right, man, we're going to start the series. And like bought a ton of corals and threw them all in there like day one.
This was you and Reed drilling it out in the driveway and those videos?
I think, was this related to that book one I was talking about? I'm not sure, man, but yeah, so like, hey, dude, just like anybody can do this. And this was just like a couple of, I mean, we had so many different lighting solutions on it, actually. So I think in the beginning it had the Vertex Illumina on it, and then we had some Radions on it.
Yeah.
Radions were actually kind of bright for it, but at the time that was Gen 1. Then we had some Kessels on this guy, and then eventually we moved this exact tank into my office inside the Reef Savvy tank.
The 75 gallon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was like a
60 gallon.
This is the How to Start a Saltwater Aquarium series.
It's the start of your
book,
yeah,
right? Reed in the basement.
You and Reed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. So like,
I still get comments.
Those are terrible videos.
I still get comments on those videos. Like last week, Friday, I was answering a comment on one of your videos from back then.
So this is just generation after generation after generation of, hey man, if we can just get this information into people's hands, you know, like they'll be more successful with their tanks, you know, and like, so I mean, I'm willing to look as stupid as you can possibly imagine, standing there next to Reed, just talking about my aquarium in my basement. But like, hey man, I just want to get this information out to people. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Hey, thanks for finding that stuff, Dave. All right, I gotta roll, man. It's 3:06. I'm already late. We will see you with heaters on Friday, and I don't know what you're gonna talk about on Wednesday.
Kessel Spectral Controller on Wednesday.
All right,
I'm gonna try to fit another one in. We'll see, but yeah.
Hey, man. So, hey, if you want to see any other types of information from us in any other formats, man, let us know.
Yeah.
And we'll do our best to do it. I'd love to see more calculators. I'd love to see more BRS TV. I'd love to see all kinds of different stuff, man. So, awesome.
Yeah, big shout out to, hey, I just want to say, you know, personally, thanks to that Ty Holborn, the guy who got me started in this, because I wouldn't be here sitting next to you today.
Hopefully you can finally get him a way to get him to see this thing. Yeah, man.
I'll shoot it to him.
Hey, and Gregor, David Gregor, I don't know if you're in reefing anymore, but I'm going to find a way to send this thing to you too. But big thank you. You were really my mentor, whether you know it or not. And thank you to all my current mentors. So thank you very much.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, see ya.